Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hockey Happy Hour. That was Korn with a little ditty called Coming Undone. Love that song. Love that album that it was on, too. But nonetheless, we would talk about music, but more importantly, there's something going around. It's called playoff fever, and every league gets it because when the NFL rolls around, everybody's got their picks for the Super Bowl. Everybody's doing their office pools. When March Madness is going on right now, that's plenty of playoff fever, enough to pretty much infect an entire nation. Along with that, you also got the NHL playoffs are coming up. The NBA playoffs are coming up real soon, and they start, I think, a week after the NHL playoff starts, if I do stand correct on that. And then, of course, the MLB playoffs in the fall.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, don't even forget, opening day is coming right around the corner here.
Yeah, and opening day is coming around the corner. Now, that's not necessarily playoff fever.
No,
that's more of a...
I'm kind of getting excited, though, for it.
More of, wait and see and pray to whomever you pray to that the red and blue of the Phillies doesn't screw up their season. But that's a completely different sport. Let's get down to it. So to get this started off with, from the way the first round's looking in the Eastern Conference playoffs, not much has changed since me and Rob went over it. So we'll get to that first. And first matchup on this list, the lowest wild card team is Columbus going up against Boston. How do you see this series playing out? Now, when I picked it, I saw Boston having trouble putting away the young and hungry Columbus Blue Jackets, but they do it in 5 or 6.
Yeah, I would say it's a valid. I mean, that's definitely a good way to look. I mean, that could go both ways. I mean, just like when we were talking about Columbus earlier, that's an intriguing matchup to me. Boston's been so solid this year, though. I just don't. I don't.
It's
as much as I like Columbus,
them,
I just don't know if I could really go against. That's just a team that's been very solid all year.
It has been. I mean, I still say though that I think Boston being more structured. You've got Tuukka Rask in net, and him and Bobrovsky are going to come down to it. If it comes down to a goalies duel. I hate to bet against Bobrovsky, but I would have to take Rask because I think Rask, being more experienced, would be able to take. And plus, Rask has playoff Stanley Cup final experience.
I was just going to say, you can't throw that out in the trash can. I mean, the playoff experience, especially for a younger team, I mean, that's why, we were saying earlier, it would scare me versus Flyers because they don't have a lot of experience, but that's where it comes in on. A team like Boston has so much playoff experience, especially your netminder.
Yeah.
Going on the road, going on the road as hard as it is, but going on the road in the playoffs, up to a place in Boston, I mean, it's a pretty intimidating place to play. So I definitely think the nerves, the jitters could set in, and it's not a team that you want to have anything like that happening.
No, not at all. Because think about it. You're looking at a team that has played so consistently. Both teams, and one that's played a little inconsistently, but like I said, there's that desire, the hunger for respect on one end, and how do you earn it? You either A, take out a big dog, or B, you basically give that big dog the worst fight he could possibly ever want, and then you realize, in 2 or 3 years, look out, because they're going to be a problem. You want that team to be scared of you for the future.
I mean, looking at their home and away is just sickening. 28-7-2 at home versus 20-10-3 on the road. So it's not even like there's almost a gap. They're almost as strong as they are on the road as they are at home.
It's ridiculous.
101 points, 48 wins, 17 losses. It's impressive. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, if you look at what they've done throughout the season, I think it's going to be. I mean, obviously they're a Stanley Cup contender for a reason. You know what I mean? It's the proof is in the pudding, and you can see it when they play. They score. Their defense is strong, and they got great goaltending. So, I mean, could they score a little more goals? Yes, but I don't think they're built like that. I mean, they're more defensively built strong in the back end and have great goaltending. So, I mean, they can get away winning those two. I mean, you see a lot of their games, they win 2-1, 2-0. You see it all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not necessarily the team that dominates that usually gets the big victories. It's usually the team that has to win like that usually earns a lot more of the more important wins where they count. But if you had to pick one of these two teams at the end of the day when the dust settles, what's the number of games and who do you think's still standing?
I would go Boston in 5.
Go Boston in 5.
I'd go
Okay,
Boston
then
in
so
5.
yeah, and I think Rob pretty much agreed with me that he'd say Boston probably in 5. I think he even said sweep. And the only reason he said that was because Boston's just so strong structurally that they would be able to shut Columbus down the entire time. I could see it happening with a possible sweep, but I would still say Columbus does get a victory.
I think they sneak one in there.
Yeah,
at least.
I think they get at least an OT win in the nationwide arena.
I don't think I don't think they're to where they're going to get swept. I would definitely think it would surprise me if they took 2. That's why I won't go 6.
If they took 2, I would applaud them.
Yeah, that's why I mean I can see them winning 1, not much more than 1, maybe making it a close, making it close in another, and then getting blown out in the last one. That's how I would kind of see that because once those you get up on a young team like that, if they're playing them in that third building, they're going to fold.
Yeah, because the young teams get it in their head that we're not beating this team, and then they really start. They get razzled very easily.
And Boston plays very intimidating kind of hockey.
They play that's why I think it's so strange when the Flyers face them. The Flyers do what the Penguins try to do. They try to out-intimidate Boston. You can't do that, and I think that's another one of those negative things that I see with the Flyers when they do try to go up against them. The Flyers try to intimidate Boston. Like, you can't intimidate Boston.
Yeah, I mean, even though the Flyers have some size in the back, they're not as big as a team. I mean, as Boston. They're not as physical as a team as Boston. They have a couple players that play, that kind of hockey. Your Ronaldos, your Scotty Hartnells when he wants to, your Simmons, guys that can rough it up, your Couturiers that can get a little dirty. But, I mean, pretty much Boston's whole team plays like that to a point. So,
it's the way that, here's how, if they were to face Columbus doesn't have a counter for it. They really don't.
No.
So we move on. The next wild card on the list, Toronto. Now, the Toronto Maple Leafs, last year they were in the playoffs. They got eliminated by Boston in the first round. Boston basically shocked everybody, beat them in Game 7, might I add. And Toronto, well, no, actually in 6. I'm wrong, not Game 7. But it was overtime. Toronto really was trying to push one more game back in Boston, and unfortunately for them, their hopes and dreams were shattered by a goal, which I believe was scored not by Marchand, but I think by Seidenberg, if I do remember this correctly. Maybe it was Marchand. I don't know. Either way, Boston won an OT, eliminated Toronto. Now, here's Toronto's next draw. Toronto would face Pittsburgh. They would face the other black and gold. The more dull-looking black and gold, might I add. And this is another game where if anybody can upset another team, it's this one. I think Toronto could beat Pittsburgh. And I say that because I think Toronto would come out with more heart than Pittsburgh, personally. Because Pittsburgh has this process of thinking, we're great. And we know we're great.
Right.
And we've got the best player in the world. We've got Evgeny Malkin. We've got all these great players. And go stick it. Personally, look at what you have accomplished. You have 1 Stanley Cup. 1. How many does Chicago have? 2.
Right.
You basically are not a dynasty.
Oh, no, far from it. I mean, I think that's one of the downfalls of that team. I think they think they're better than. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's talent all over that team.
Oh, no, there isn't.
But I think they almost think they're better than they really are to a point. Sometimes
they think they're Superman,
right.
And the problem is that you're still human and you can still get beat.
And you still get 60. beat, and they generally end up getting beat. I mean, you're right. It's an intriguing matchup. I see your point. It's just Toronto struggled so much on the road this year.
They did.
That's the only thing, especially going into Pittsburgh. I mean, they're under 500 this year on the road, which is, for being a playoff contender, I think they're the only team under 500 on the road. So that jumps out at me.
I mean, I only said they could. I didn't mean that.
No.
Happen,
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you're saying. That worries me a little bit. and especially now after the ass whooping the Flyers gave them last weekend. It seems like they picked up a head of steam now. Pittsburgh's.
Yeah, I think they got a big swift kick in the ass.
Yeah, I think that. I don't know if that was
yeah.
actually a good thing.
No, I think we probably
might have woke up the beast.
We awoke the beast by basically slapping it in the face and then pissing on it before we left. You know,
100%.
Yeah, we pretty much did that whole thing right there.
And that's not. And that, I mean, just like when we were talking about earlier in the last segment. You know, when you laid it to Boston in the playoffs there, what happened when Boston came back next year? They whooped your ass every single game. So, I mean, look, if you're asking for my opinion on, I think how that series would go, I think it would be a tight series, but it would. I'd go Pittsburgh in 6 on that one, personally.
I'm actually going to go Pittsburgh. I think it will go 7. I actually think that home ice advantage will eventually lead Pittsburgh to winning, but I think Toronto will win every game in the Air Canada Center because they're so strong at home.
They are strong.
And I think that would carry them to full 7. I just don't see them surviving Game 7 in Pittsburgh, because they're not the Flyers. They can't magically turn the Consol Energy Center into their home away from home. Right. The Flyers seem to be the only team that has that magic to do it, you know.
And that's a long trip. Especially at the end of that series. I mean, I'd like where you're going with that on Game 7. I mean, there's the writing's almost on the wall for that one. You just, when you see a team struggle on the road all year, they just all of a sudden don't turn it on in the playoffs on the road. You don't really see that.
You don't really just all of a sudden snap out of it and realize, oh, wait a minute, we're in the playoffs. Now let's start playing on the road better. Like, no, those jinxes do carry on over.
Definitely, and versus one of the best teams in the league. Even more so. I mean, if the matchup was a little weaker, I know maybe I'm going to give them a little more credit on that one, but the Penguins are the Penguins. We're not catching them this year. So
it's not. It's not going to be that.
They don't got. I mean, heck, they win tonight. They almost got 100 points so far this year. So
yeah, they're about 4 points I think away from
right.
That.
So I mean, even with I'm confident but after the Flyers beat them, that gives me a little more confidence. It doesn't take away the reality that I know that Pittsburgh's a good team. And
oh no, that's not like, oh yeah, Pittsburgh's so bad they're gonna lose. It's not one of those things. It's one of those. Guess what? We're the Flyers.
You almost want to jump to that just because we hate the Penguins.
Yeah.
But then you got the realistic version of just being knowing the game knows that you have to respect a team like that.
Yeah, and you got to think, like, what are the Penguins to the Flyers? The most hated rival and the most filthy, disgusting team on the face of the planet. They are undesirables, basically. What are they to the Toronto Maple Leafs? A very good team that has a lot more structure than they do.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, a lot more talent on the offensive side too. I mean,
yeah, and again, their goaltending. If it comes down to that, I would have to say Toronto wins it because Fleury is Fleury, and he's not been the same since they won that Stanley Cup. He really hasn't.
No, I mean you're right. I mean, you make a good point there. I mean, he does let in some really unusual goals sometimes that even anybody will sit there scratching their head at how did that go in, which is weird because sometimes you see some of the best saves and then sometimes you see some of the worst goals. So, but
and I've seen Crosby over there having to console him about 1,000 times, trying to tell him, like, don't worry, that was just a fluke, won't happen. They just got lucky. Yeah, I saw that happen one time with the Flyers. That turned the whole game around, and the Flyers won.
And it's bad when you got one baby, consoling another baby.
Yeah,
so that doesn't when you're.
That's not going to motivate you.
I know when he's consoling with Sidney Crosby. I don't know how much motivation he's getting out of him because the guy cries more than my aunt's 2-year-old baby.
But let's be honest here. We're right here on this. I think that Toronto probably does get eliminated by Pittsburgh. It's only natural. It's a shame, too, because you would like to see the blue and white kind of shock everybody and pull this one out of their ass. But it's
a stretch, I would say.
It's a stretch. Yeah, it's very, very hard. I still see it, though, going full 7 only because of the home ice coming into play for Toronto and pushing that to 7 games.
I'm not, I said it's 6. I'm not,
which is still very impressive.
I'm not gonna sway off of what my opinion already, but I like your opinion more than I like mine. So I like you almost sold me on your opinion, to be honest with you. That it makes a lot of sense, especially with that home away difference.
Yeah. Okay then. So now we've talked through the wild cards. Neither one survives. Boston and Pittsburgh, the black and gold, sweep right on through to the next round. So in the semifinals, they were there, but who would be their divisional opponents? Well, that's what we're about to talk about now. Wild card 1, the Atlantic. Tampa Bay, one of the offensive machines of the NHL, with Steven Stamkos. You talk about a man who is like, whew, he just scores. And I've said this about 1,000 times. They've said Crosby's the next Gretzky. Throw that crap in the garbage. Look at Stamkos and what he's able to do. Even on our crappy season, Stamkos puts up numbers that beat Crosby, beat Malkin, beat everybody.
Yeah, he's an impressive talent. I mean, he just has a knack for. I mean, there's very few guys in the league that you can say that just literally have a straight out knack for scoring. He's number one when it comes to mind. I mean, the guy just he just smells the back of that net for some reason.
He does. He finds a way, man. He finds a way. And meanwhile, they will be going up against Danny Briere and the Montreal Canadiens. And this has been an odd year for the Canadiens. They've been very competitive all year, but at the same time, they've had their peaks and their valleys, and they've done that more so in recent weeks than they have in the past, because it wasn't all that long ago Montreal was staring in the wild card position. So it's a bit of an odd year for them, and going up against Tampa, that's a tough matchup for them because Montreal's a team that can outskate a really weak skating team.
Right.
Try out skating a team that is highly offensive, fast, durable, and it's pretty quick on the draw. It's very, very hard to do. Mm-hmm. And Tampa's all that rolled into one and then some.
That's going to be a great matchup.
It will be.
Very evenly matched teams. I mean, very evenly matched teams.
And they've got their offensive weapons that score, you know. But I think it will come down to who can get the most goals at the end of this series. And I think Tampa does win this series. I say they win it in 6, which I think is fair because I think Montreal will struggle in Tampa. They'll do fine in Montreal, but the moment that they get back in Tampa, they're just going to head straight back down. And it's going to be really hard for them to kind of muster anything up against Tampa because Tampa, look at their home record. They're 28-5.
That's nice.
That's a beautiful, sparkling record right there.
It is. It's you always like seeing that. I mean, even your serious team's going into the playoffs. And anybody that's going to be up, at least 10, 12 games at home, and it's 5 to 7 games, above 500 on the road. And the thing about both of these teams, they're actually, I mean, Montreal struggle a little less at home. I mean, they're 20-12 and 5, 18-14 and 2 on the road. So, I'm sniffing exactly what you are. I like Tampa Bay's offense a little more in this matchup. Just like I was talking about with Stamkos, going into the playoffs. I mean, that guy just catches fire. I could just see him netting goals left and right in that one. I'm going to go Tampa Bay on that one.
Okay.
I'm going to say in 5. I'm going to go Tampa Bay on 5 on that one. I like that for some reason. It just jumped out at me.
You want Tampa in 5? All right.
Yeah.
Now, that's interesting because you're basically saying that Montreal not only gets outskated, they basically get outplayed for most of the series. You
know what? I'm just going on my hunch on this one right now.
You know what? Sometimes that gut feeling.
Yeah, that's really something. I know where you're coming from when you say that. That's what I'm feeling in this one.
I'm not going to argue. You know what? I've had gut feelings about certain series too, and you know what? I think
I was talking about Steven Stamkos might got me a little going crazy now, but I just like Stamkos just keeps popping vivid imageries of goal.
Yeah, he shoots, he scores. It's not very hard for him to find that net. Some people can't score at all, and they're like, how does he make this? How does he do that? I'd be like, that's not something you teach. That's just something you're born with.
The guy is just an offensive talent. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Absolutely. Now, next divisional matchup, and this one hits the home, and it's Philly versus the Rangers. We already talked about how they stacked up against each other. Now it's time to actually pick it. My honest opinion, from the way that these two teams are playing now, I would have to say, going goal for goal, the Flyers win this bad boy, but they do have to win it in 7. And I mean that in the full honest respect to the Rangers, because going to Madison Square Garden is a bitch and trying to win a game.
Yeah.
It really is. The Rangers fans, even though there's been times where John Tortorella has said, I can't hear the fans, there's been plenty of times where the Rangers fans have been nice and loud and boisterous and are not afraid to tell you to go screw yourself, you know? So, I mean, let's be honest here. I could imagine that series going full 7 because the teams are mirroring each other. They are mirror images of each other. Both have got good goaltenders. Both have got solid structure on their offensive talent, but they've had their defensive woes in the past.
Right.
And they still have their inconsistency. And even though the Flyers have been playing great hockey, let's be honest, this season has proven one thing, inconsistency. So, yeah, that's why I say 7. Two teams that are exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, you got good backing on that one. I mean, there's no ifs, ands. It's weird, you know, watching a couple games of the Rangers this year, just seeing them at 500 at home and 22-13-0 on the road is shocking. I didn't know it was that much of a differential from home. I mean, that's almost.
The funny thing is, though, is that this really doesn't apply too much to the Flyers because the last 2 times the Flyers faced them in Philly, they beat them.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I mean, it's just kind of crazy to see any solid team up there, you know, that's 500 at home and then it actually excels
on the road,
which is, who knows?
I mean, let's be honest though. If this series started today, I'd say both series, at least the first 2, split. You know, at least Flyers get 1 win and get 1 loss in Philly, and they get 1 win and get 1 loss in the Madison Square Garden, and then they kind of go a little bit back and forth, and then
split,
and then home ice advantage kind of comes out for the Flyers at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're going with 7. I'm probably going to be a little optimistic on this one, but this is you know, and especially the way they've been playing, and I'm forecasting the Flyers to do. I mean, obviously, there's another 16 games before the playoffs going, but I'm smelling sweep on this one. I'm going out on a limb on this one.
Wow, that's a bold prediction right there.
I'm going straight out on a limb on this one. I'm going.
Man, got a set of bullocks on you on predicting that one, man.
I'm literally going to go on a limb on this one. I think the Flyers come out and lay it to them. I really do. I think they step on their throats almost. I
see what you're saying.
I think they come out and they step on their throats, and then, you know, either way, when it comes back to Philly, they don't let off. You know, if it's. I mean, it depends on who's going to have home. You know, it depends on how it shakes out here. You know, going into it.
Well, if it did start today, Flyers would have home ice.
Flyers would have home ice. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
And, I mean, I'll be completely honest with you.
Because if they stick it to them the first 2 games, and then they go back, and then the Rangers go back home,
I mean,
I can see them just jump right on them like that for some reason.
I mean, to me, it's a little tough because it's been almost the reverse for the Flyers this year, where they've been really good against the Rangers in Philly. Mm-hmm. They were absolute garbage when they went to the Garden last time, and they absolutely got crushed by the Rangers.
Yeah, that was actually an ugly game.
Yeah, that was a really bad game. The Flyers didn't play well at all. I mean. Even I don't think Mason played all that well either in that game. It was really just the whole team was just. It was one of those games where they were not clicking on any cylinder.
The Rangers, you know, it's not like the Rangers always have the Flyers card or anything like that too. But it seems if you ever do notice first time, it's either the opposite. Either Flyers goes up there and they stomp on them, or it's vice versa. You know, you'll see tons of. I mean, you do see them here and there. You know, a little more tight knit games. But as of late. It's been the opposite ends almost.
I say it's competitive, though, mostly because of the goaltending.
Right.
And the major reason why I say New York's able to push 7 against the Flyers is because of Lundqvist. I mean, you gotta give respect to the man who's in their net because he's so dangerous and he's capable of snagging games for you, and we've seen him do it. I mean, there's a lot of times where they had to face Washington. They've faced Washington almost every year for the last 4 or 5 years in the playoffs, and every time, I swear to you, when it came time to either getting eliminated or winning the series, it was Lundqvist who decided it. It wasn't anything else that factored into that team either getting eliminated or getting the win.
See, the way I look at it is, if the the Flyers play at home, they jump on them in game 1. Okay, we give the Flyers we jump on them they jump on them early, and it goes to game 2. I think that would be the crucial game right there. If they could take 2 at home, I think they can easily go right up there and take 2 from them in their home building.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And end it right up at 4. I mean, I can see it happening like that. Now, if they don't, I'm wrong. And you're right.
Yeah, so it's more like, more like my idea is actually going to come into play here.
Right.
Or we may all be wrong, and they may just win in 5, or they may win in 6. Who knows?
Right.
Either way. Or maybe they'll win in 3. They'll change everything, and the first round's now 5 games. Now I'm joking.
I can just see, the up and downs the Rangers have just had this year. I can really see them just coming out slow for some reason in that matchup versus them. And the Flyers just rolling on them. I just really like the way the Flyers have been dictating games, and I think if they can keep this up going into the playoffs and kind of dictate that series to them at home, they can jump out on them quick.
Hey, you know what? I'm not arguing with that at all. And plus, they got a chance to test that theory because guess who they're facing after they're done facing the Kings next Monday? They got to face the Rangers in Madison Square Garden.
Right.
So
good precursor.
There's a big matchup right there that could be an early playoff preview.
I'm marking it down right now. March 22nd, 5:30, Flyers sweep. So we'll see what comes to fruition.
It's 5:30. You're calling it. Yeah. All right, got it. All right.
Oh no, not at all. I'm just marking it down because I feel very confident about this.
Hey, you know what? I feel confident too. I'm just trying to not piss off the Rangers fans out there who may or may not be listening. They probably aren't, but still, But
nothing wrong with pissing off some Rangers fans.
No, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I prefer pissing off Pittsburgh fans, though, a little bit more. But anyway, we move on. Western Conference time. This is the one where we have absolutely no real bias whatsoever. And we start on into the very first wild card matchup. On one end, we've got most likely President's Trophy winning St. Louis Blues going mano-a-mano with the Phoenix Coyotes. Now, let's be completely honest here. The Coyotes have had a great stretch, and they've really built themselves up, but their away record is atrocious.
Awful.
And to me, the inconsistency of their play this season is going to really be really tough for them to get by St. Louis. I mean, you might as well have to try and run uphill, up a steep 90-degree angle hill, and then just add soap to it so you keep slipping the fuck off. Like, seriously.
That's a great analogy, man. I love that.
It's very, very hard to try and beat St. Louis if you're Phoenix.
Especially 13, 14, and 8. That's not going to do it.
Yeah,
that's not.
So
And it's just so stark comparison
I
to
know.
their home record. I mean, it's almost like I thought I was looking at the wrong thing for a second there. I mean, when you see 21, 11, and 3,
and then you look over and you see
home,
13,
I thought it was like my
8.
screen was messed up for a second here. 13, 14, and 8. I mean, that's crazy.
That's horrible. And then they have a -3 goal differential compared to the +67 that St. Louis has. I mean, look at the offensive structure that St. Louis has. And goaltending, which would be pretty competitive because Mike Smith is really good.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, he'd be competing with Miller. So it'd be 2 Americans facing off with each other, oddly enough. No, I'm wrong. Mike Smith's Canadian. I found that out this past Olympics, which shocked the hell out of me because I thought Smith was American.
Yeah. Well, you would think so. You would assume that from his name.
Mike Smith. I mean, how much more American can you get? That's the
you look in the phone book, you see 13,000 Mike Smiths.
Yeah. But either way, I would have to say, it's no doubt, in my opinion, St. Louis probably wins this. I'll give Phoenix. No, actually, I'm not even going to do that. I'm saying sweep.
Yeah, I wasn't. I thought you were going to be nice there and give them a game.
I was about to give them a game, and then I said, nope. You know what? You got to be a ruthless bastard. And St. Louis would be going into this. Oh, they'll be ferocious coming out of the gate. You know, St. Louis is going to walk in there and be like, we want the cup. We're hungry for it. We don't have one in our building, and we're going to kick the crap out of whoever's first. I don't want to be that first team, and it's Phoenix.
I mean,
know?
They're not going to beat them at home.
No.
Not many. I mean, they've lost 5 times this whole year at home. So
yeah.
I don't all of a sudden. I can't see that. I mean, I can't see it happening at all.
No.
They're going to go down 2-0. And they're going down 0-2. I'm sorry, right out of the chute. And I don't see him. I mean, yes, they do play really well at home, so I can see where you might want to give them that game on.
But
then
I think about it, and then I look at their goal differential. I'm like,
coming back and with the skate almost on their neck at 2-0. I don't see that at all.
And again, St. Louis is going to be ruthless, rolling out of the gate and just saying, you know what? I don't want to be the first team in the playoffs because we want that cup and we want it now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and St. Louis has not gotten out of the first round since last year, and they have to think about that for a year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they lost to a worse team. They
Right.
were the better team against Los Angeles last year, and Los Angeles still beat them.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to think that's still ringing in their heads.
Oh, they're angry.
You know?
There's
no
ifs,
doubt
ands, or
about
buts
it. They
about it.
want it. They want it real badly. So,
And that was a tough matchup too.
It was.
A really
I mean,
tight
if it
fought,
wasn't for
drug out.
if it wasn't for Quick, I don't think the Kings would have won that series. I honestly think St. Louis would have gotten their revenge and would have eliminated the Los Angeles Kings.
Oh, I mean, it's not only did he play out of his mind in that series. I mean, he played all his mind the whole entire playoffs.
He did,
pretty
but
much.
eventually it caught up to the Kings because the Kings could only do so much. And when you depend so much on your goaltender, you might be able to get away with it one time. Mm-hmm. Try doing it again.
Right.
You know,
which goes back to our whole thing with the Flyers and the penalties. You only can get away with that stuff so long.
And I want to point out a quick little fun fact here. And people who are probably going to say, well, what's the excuse for the Devils with Brodeur? Here's the excuse. Scott Stevens, Scott Niedermayer, Claude Lemieux. Do I have to keep going?
Right.
You know,
right.
They had a solid team.
Enough said.
You know, so that's just what I want to throw out there to everybody. There's a fine difference between having where you're always depending on your goaltender, like the Kings, to where you have a great goaltender, but you also have a great team in front.
Right.
You know, and that's just the honest to God truth.
Yeah, and that's more of the fluky ones when you get that team that kind of dark horses in, in a wild card, and then the goalie stands on his head and wins it for him, but you don't really see that as much anymore because teams are just, there's too many good teams in the NHL, and there's too many teams that are stacked on all 3 phases, goaltending, defense, and offense, for a team to sneak completely through the playoffs and win a cup with just strong goaltending. I mean, has it happened?
Oh,
yes, but it's just not. It's not likely to
It's
happen.
not likely to happen. Lightning doesn't strike twice all that
No,
often. You know?
no.
So let's just go through that. Phoenix gets swept, no doubt about it. We move on. Next thing we go to is, San Jose. This is actually kind of, I have a soft spot for the Sharks because they're a team that gets no respect, even though they're one of the best teams in the NHL, because of one problem. They choke, and they've choked every time. They won the President's Trophy one year. They looked like the best team in the NHL. They got beat in the first round by the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, it was pretty ugly, too.
It's like, oh, my God. This poor team. Yeah, every year it's the same thing, They just find a way to get eliminated. But San Jose now will go one-on-one with Minnesota. Minnesota, let's be honest here, they're a very defensive-minded team, and they have to be because their offense, besides Zach Parise, is non-existent. And then to go along with it, their goaltending is still iffy. Josh Harding, his MS keeps handicapping him, and they've got Brizgalov as their backup.
That says enough.
That's do I need to say more? This team is really in trouble going up against San Jose, who have Antoniemi as their goaltender, and then their backup, Stalick, who I saw twice against the Flyers. I went and saw him live. He's a very good goalie, and he's young and he's a rookie. So I'm just, It doesn't take much to put 2 and 2 together. Plus the offensive machine that San Jose is.
I was just going to say, not the fact that
look at Joe Pavelski alone, and do I need to say more? You know, I mean, San Jose just keeps churning out playoff teams every year, and you're wondering, man, is San Jose ever not going to be in the playoffs? You know, it makes you wonder half the time. You know,
it looks like this might be the time for them to actually get past the first round.
Yeah, it might be. Well, they did get past the first round last year. They swept Vancouver, and then they went into the next round, and they choked against the Los Angeles Kings.
Right.
So, but nonetheless, San Jose up against Minnesota. I'd have to say I will actually be fair to Minnesota and give them 1 game. I say Minnesota does get a win at home, but they lose in 5.
That's good actually. I mean, because they do really struggle. They struggle away. They really struggle away big time. They're 3 games below 500 at home, and there's another crazy one. 23-7-5 at home, which is crazy because I mean that's really up to the top of the win chart when it comes to even the top teams at home. I mean, you look at St. Louis, you look at San Jose, they got 26, 25.
Did you say 23 and 27? Because I got 23-7-5.
Isn't that what I said? 23-7-5. What did I say?
Yeah, I think you said 23, 27, and 5.
Oh no, I 23. Okay, it might have been a little slip up there. 23-7-5. No, I was just looking at that record in comparison to St. Louis and San Jose's, and that's. But then you look at that road record, and that's really where they've been hurt this year, big time.
Yeah, and again, San Jose is going to have home ice advantage. So even then, it's just like, forget it. You know, you're going up against a very dominant team and in a very intimidating building because the SAP Center is actually rated as one of the loudest buildings in the NHL today.
That's a great matchup for San Jose. I mean,
they couldn't have asked for a better.
I was going to say that just suits them so well.
Yeah,
I almost want to jump at sweep, but I can't go sweeping the broom all over this all over the playoffs this year.
No.
So I already got two. So I'll give them 1, and I'll ride with you on the 5.
Yeah, I definitely think that they'll look at their home record. Does say that they'll probably sneak a win out in 5 and lose in 5.
You would have to think so. I mean, with that big of a discrepancy. Between home and the road, I mean, 10 games.
They did the same thing against Chicago, where they went up against a team that was structurally more superior than they are, and they snuck a win out on them in Minnesota.
Right.
So the same thing happened against Chicago. I see the same thing happen against San Jose.
That's why I like them. I mean, especially they have to be able to sneak at least 1 on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, at least 1. That's why I was sitting there pausing for a second, because I was thinking maybe 6, but I'm going to ride with 5 on that one.
Let's go with that one. All right, we move on, and now divisional matchups. First one, the Central. The Chicago Blackhawks team that sat at the top of the NHL charts for the longest time, the defending Stanley Cup champs for the second time, facing off against the young, hungry, and very talented Patrick Waugh-coached Colorado Avalanche. Now, this will be the first time in quite some time that Colorado's in the playoffs. The last time they were in the playoffs was 2010. That's about a good 5 years right there that they have not been in the playoffs. Or actually, no, 4. Would be 5 if this season went by and they still didn't make it. But 4 years pretty much where they have not seen playoff action in Colorado. They've got to be itching for it at this point.
I mean, you got that right. I mean, this is where I'm going to go on a little limb. I like Colorado in that matchup. I like Colorado deep. I think it's going to be very kind of evenly matched up teams. I like this in one of those very knockdown, drag out kind of series. Goes 7 and Colorado sneaks it somehow from them.
You know what? Originally, I had Chicago winning this, but after the way Chicago's been playing, they've kind of been going downhill real fast. Kane's getting hurt, and then plus their goaltending with Crawford, he's starting to show a couple of errors in judgment there, and they have a horrible OT record. They have no wins in overtime.
Yeah, it is bad.
Literally no wins. When I saw that when they played the Flyers this past Tuesday, I nearly shit my pants laughing.
That's 14 games. And they've been...
no, I'm not joking. Their OTL record is their exact record in overtime. They have no wins in OT.
If you notice, I pulled the mic away because I wasn't sure if I was looking at that one right too. But Yeah, that's
no, I seriously, I almost shit myself laughing just because of the fact that how can you be the defending Cup champs and you can't win an OT?
That's I know, especially in your own building. You would think you would think they'd have been at least sneak one of them in their own building at some point.
I thought
out of 14 chances, you can't tell me you're going to pull one. I did not know that.
No, I didn't know that either.
I did not know that.
When I saw that this past Tuesday, I literally I was dying laughing. I'm like, how in the world do they have that record in OT? And it's their defending Cup year. Really?
Yeah, I see. For some reason, I have because the way they're playing right now, and we know this, it's usually the stronger finishers that end up really succeeding in the playoffs. Now they got Kane out. They say he'll be ready for the playoffs. Who knows?
You always hear those where they'll be ready for the playoffs. Guess what? They said the same thing for Mike Richards and Jeff Carter when they got hurt. They didn't come back till the Boston series in 2010.
Right. So yeah, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. You hit the nail right on the head there. That's a big thing in itself right there. I mean, Kane's a big part of their offense over there. So
he's not their captain, but he might as well be.
Yeah, know? I mean, he produces like one. I mean, he definitely.
He's their goal scorer.
I like Colorado. I mean, Colorado's really been playing well under Waugh too as of late.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what Waugh did to them, man, but they have become a machine.
Almost.
I mean, and also Semyon Varlamov, man. Waugh must be in the pads, literally teaching him every practice because he has been playing brilliant all year.
Right.
I mean, like literally, I've
seen when you have one of the best goalies of all time as your coach, it can't hurt to have
pretty much. Yeah,
it can't. I
mean, Waugh's behind very few people when it comes to greatest of all time.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got Waugh up there, you got Berdouille. I mean, you got some other guys.
You got Perron up
there,
there, and then you've also got guys like Jacques Plante and stuff like that who are up there as well. You know,
but it's, I mean, a goaltender can't, that can't be a bad thing to have that guy as your head coach, and especially nowadays. We know how potent offensively Chicago can be. You got Waugh whispering this guy, and he's playing strong. What better thing to match a good offense is a good goaltender. So, that's why I'm going Colorado here in 7.
And you know what? I originally was going to go with Chicago, but in light of all the new evidence that has been presented by the prosecution, I would have to say that Colorado probably wins this bad boy, and I'm going to go 7.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean,
I throw 7 out a lot.
I like this series. I think it'll be a great series to watch too. For some reason, I have this very close. I don't see many I don't think that you're going to really see a blowout in any one of these games. Personally,
if you see a blowout in this series, then it would have to be Chicago just blows a wheel and blows a gasket, and Colorado absolutely crushes them. Because I don't see Colorado doing it. Colorado just looks to be in that solid form. They're playoff ready. They are playoff ready.
The way they're playing right now, yeah.
Think about it. This is a young team that's had their experience. They've been learning every year, and they keep getting better every year.
And that's all you want to see out of these young teams.
Yeah. And the worst part is, they're the kind of team that makes me very happy we're not in the Western Conference because they're the kind of team that can win Stanley Cups.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, I think when we were talking about, I mean, they have some Columbus qualities to them.
They do, I mean? But they have even better than Columbus qualities to them, and that's what's scary. That's even more scary about them than not.
Well, just like when we were saying about them, how scary they are. That's I put that team right in that same bracket almost. That same, you gotta. You know what you're going to get a little more from them, but I like that squad. I think they're a really good team.
And even without home ice advantage, they're still dangerous. Even without, because their away record, they're 21-10-3 away. Mean they're phenomenal on the road. So it's like, how can you bet against them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they have more losses at home than they do on the road. So
and that's why
I'm going with them. I like that. I like any team that can play away from home as well as they play at home. That tells me something.
Yeah, that tells you a lot.
That tells you a lot about a team. I mean, you see the teams that we've already talked about that struggle on the road. You can just tell the teams that are better on the road are just more of a polished. They're more polished teams. They're more all three-phase teams. You notice the teams they're more two-phase teams, more super strong one-phase teams, mediocre in two other phases. You know what I mean? I think that really separates it, especially in NHL, because it's not easy to win on the road.
Oh, no, not at all, especially with long stretches. And a lot of times we've seen that happen this year where we had these long road trips. And the Flyers went through 2 of them, these really long, like 6 games in a row where you're spending a whole week on the road.
Oh, it's got to be tough.
It's very, very hard to really stay consistent when you're on the road all the time.
Mm-hmm. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, especially the way they travel in the NHL. I mean, yeah. You're flying coast to coast. You're going into Canada. You're coming from Canada. You're going to L.A.
And the time zones are so weird.
It is.
And then also high altitudes, too, because you're also going to places where Colorado, you're on mountain time, basically. You're in the mountains. When you leave, first of all, you can breathe easier. Second of all, your whole clock is like screwed up because you're like mountain time's so strange.
Right.
I mean, I don't know much about time, and I can't really tell time all that well, but I can tell you this right now. If I went onto a mountain and I came down, I'd be so screwed up by that point. I'd be like, "What the hell happened?"
Well, it messes with you. They even say, when Colorado goes back home, it even takes those guys a day or two.
Adjust,
if they go on a stretch, they're out on the road for a week or so, and they come back. It even takes them a game or two to get that advantage back.
Yeah. So we've got Colorado basically going on. I say in 7. You say 7?
Yep, 7. It's Colorado in 7.
All right, then. So we move on to our next divisional matchup, Anaheim and Los Angeles. This is a good old gutter war right here between these two Southern Californian teams. We're not all that far away from each other. I mean, let's face it, L.A. is right down the road from Anaheim. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know what highway it is, but you get on that highway, you'll be there eventually. And let's be honest here, between these two teams, it's going to come down to goaltending. Yeah. Let's throw the goal scoring crap out the window. It's coming down to goaltending. And if I had to go goaltending, I'm going with Jonas Hiller.
Yeah.
No offense to Jonathan Quick, but I got to go Hiller on this one.
He's been playing better this year.
He has been, but let's be honest, Hiller's probably winning Vezina.
I was just going to say, he's been playing top 3 goalies. Yeah. He's been top 3 goalie in the league the whole entire season. So I like your ride on that. How many games you think? I'm
going to honestly say this goes 6. I say Anaheim beats Los Angeles in Los Angeles and really sticks it to them. I think L.A. really, they've had inconsistency with offense all year long.
Yeah, they have.
And like I said before, it's going to come down to goaltending for them. Quick can only do so much. Mm-hmm. And again, that came back to bite them big time when they had to go up against Chicago, and Chicago eliminated them.
Right.
So I'd have to say Anaheim wins this bad boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll right along with you. I'm actually gonna go Anaheim in 5. I like Anaheim. I like Anaheim in this matchup. So you are right. I mean, Los Angeles they do struggle to score, and Anaheim's been really another one of those teams, like I was saying earlier, that's just been very plateauish almost this season. Another
the fact that they got Solani and it's his last year and they want to get him his farewell cup. You know?
I like the way they've played. They've stretched out a fairly consistent team, and I always like the consistent teams like this. Getting into this time of the season.
Yeah, and they've been very consistent all year, and they've been an offensive machine, and they got so many weapons on that team. It's scary, And their defense isn't bad neither. Their defensive structure. Actually, I strike that. Their defense has been a little odd at times, but guess what? When you've got 97 points, you can overlook it. You really can. It's because you could score 6 goals on Anaheim. Anaheim's going to beat you with 7. That's the way it is. That's the way this team's been playing all year.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'd back that one up behind you. I mean, I like the matchup for them too. I like that matchup versus Los Angeles. So
Anaheim will love it. Trust me. By the time this postseason, when the postseason rolls around, they're facing off with each other. Anaheim's going to love it.
Right. Yeah.
So Anaheim moving on in 6. Time to get to the semifinals. Semifinal matchup. Let's start with the Western Conference first. Let's get to the East later, since we are going to be biased in the East. But let's go to the West. Semifinal matchup number 1. Divisional matchup: St. Louis versus Colorado. Now, this is where I think the youth of Colorado is eventually going to fizzle out. And I say that because they're going to be so motivated to earn respect. They'll get it against Chicago. But I think when they go up against St. Louis, they're going to find that St. Louis is a check for everything that Colorado has.
Right. I mean, I think riding high, I mean, the way I have them winning, so riding high into the second, yeah, I don't think it's going to last. I mean, their hopes are going to be up, and I have a feeling they're going to be dashed.
Yeah, like I said, they got a check for everything. And I say St. Louis probably beats them. I will be generous here. I'm going to say 6.
Yeah, that's about right. I mean,
I say they split the early series where they do get a win away on St. Louis. I think they'll be the first one to really put that chink in St. Louis's arm that says, yes, you had a vacation in the first round.
Right.
You know?
Right. Let them wake up a little bit. Yeah, I like St. Louis in it. I mean, I'm trying to figure out the games, and 6 sounds right. I mean, 6 sounds right. The logic behind that says so. And I think Colorado's going to fizzle out more towards that. You know, I think they're going to be strong in the first round, and then, like I said, again to the second round, they kind of fizzle out. I think St. Louis
they'll be tired.
It's not a great matchup for them either.
They'll be tired. You
Right.
know, St. Louis is going to be fresh. They just swept the Phoenix Coyotes. Trust me, they're pretty fresh. So I have them moving on in 6. What about you? You say 6 too?
6 also.
All right then. So next matchup, Anaheim versus San Jose. Now, another gutter war right here between two Californian teams. Let's give it up for the state of California, man. There was a time period when we used to look at California teams and laugh, you know, but
Los
now,
Angeles,
man,
Anaheim, San Jose, it's pretty impressive.
yeah, I mean, I always had respect for San Jose. I very rarely had respect for both the Kings and Los Angeles, but they've earned a lot of respect over these last few years, and especially with the Ducks winning the Cup and the Kings winning the Cup doesn't hurt. But, you know, I'll be honest with you, Anaheim, I would like to say Anaheim pulls this one out of their ass. But after all that I've seen from San Jose, I don't think they do it. I think San Jose, but I'm going to say this goes 7.
7.
Yeah, it's going 7 in my opinion.
Yeah, that's, you know, 2 really evenly matched teams. I mean, almost as even on the scorecard as you can get.
And then goaltending-wise, they're pretty even too. Hiller versus Niemi.
Yeah, I know. So I should pull out a quarter and coin flip this one.
I think I got one if you need it. You know?
You know, I'm going to go with Hiller.
right.
I like. It's definitely. I mean, I see 7 all written all over this one too, just because how close the teams really are. The goaltending is strong on both of them. They both score. So I'm going to go Anaheim in 7. I'm going to go Anaheim in 7.
All right. So we're a little first time we actually disagreed. And I got to go. I'm going with my boys, the Sharks, on this one. I just kind of have to on merit. But we move on. Semifinal matchups coming here for the Eastern Conference. Let's see. Boston versus Tampa. 2 offensive machines, but one that is more defensively structured than the other.
Right.
And in my opinion, that will catch up to Tampa. And I have Boston winning this in 6.
I mean, there's almost a 50-goal differential there. So I know, I see, I mean, at least 40. So I like Boston in that one. I think Tampa Bay's flame gets put out, or their bolt, I should say, gets put out.
Yeah, their bolt. Their lightning does not strike
their lightning
twice.
does not strike twice in this one.
Yeah.
I like Boston throwing them, beating them up a little bit, actually. I like Boston in 5 in that one.
Okay. I'm going to say 6 only because I think Tampa will probably get a couple of wins at home. I mean, they could split.
They are strong at home.
But I would think that, you know what, Tampa will probably get 2 wins at the St. Pete Times Forum, tie a series up that probably Boston will take a 2-0 lead in.
Yeah, I mean, I see Boston winning all over this one. I'm a little sketchy on the games on this one because Tampa Bay can score.
There's no doubt about it. But again, Boston can score too.
They can score too, and they're better defensively.
Plus, if you go with Anders Lindback versus Rask, you got to go with Rask. You know, no offense to Lindback, but you know you got to stay with Rask. On this one.
I mean, you can see there's a big difference right there, 149 to 189. You know what I mean, on just the goals that they led up there. So I mean, it's 41 on the dot. So
yeah, and plus you're facing a really good home team against another really good home team who has home ice advantage,
right?
You know,
and that usually
then
prevails.
Both teams are good on the road,
right.
So it's just like you got to go with Boston on this one.
I like Boston. You got Boston in 6. I got them in 5.
All right, so we're both in agreement. Boston's moving on. All right, next one: Philly versus Pittsburgh. The matchup we all wanted to see. Now, if this does happen, this is how I'm going to see it. And I'm saying Flyers in 6. And this is how I'm going to see it. I'm going to see the Flyers probably winning both games in Consol Energy Center.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to see them splitting this series in Philly.
Right.
And they'll lose a one. I think we're going to probably see them win a game in Pittsburgh. They win to. All right. Strike that. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to have them win in 5.
That's good.
You know what? Screw it. You know what? They're going to really shit can Pittsburgh this time and really give them a good one and beat them in 5.
Yeah. I mean, I like where you're going on that one. I mean, I was thinking it might stretch out to 7, but I just really like
That'd
the way
be hard. That's a stretch.
It is. I like the way the Flyers have played versus them this year, a lot, and I almost want to go sweep again in the second round, but I know I can't do that. So
I'm all for it though. If you want the Flyers sweeping the Penguins,
I'm going. That's too much Flyers blood in me.
Too much. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I'm gonna be generous enough to say Pittsburgh gets a win, but they're gonna have to get a win on Philly in Philly.
Right.
They're not getting it in the Consol Energy Center.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm right with you on that one. Flyers in 5. I was thinking maybe 6, but I like them in 5. I mean, I like the Flyers. I especially like them versus Pittsburgh, and I like the matchup even more so that Pittsburgh's got home ice. So
yeah, because we all love the Consol Energy Center in Philadelphia.
I was going to say it doesn't really do them too good there.
Yeah,
so
that's our home away from home. For Pittsburgh, they would love to just dog the season and have home ice, not have home ice advantage against Philadelphia.
Yeah,
that way they have a fighting chance.
Yeah, no. I mean, valid point.
Yeah.
Valid point. Flyers in 5 all the way there.
Yeah. All right, then. So we've got our Eastern Conference Finals and our Western Conference Finals. Now, Western Conference Finals. It is St. Louis versus San Jose. This is a battle of two titans right here. The top divisional opponents facing off with each other.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with my boys in St. Louis. I hate to derail the Sharks. I really do, because there's a part of me that has such a soft spot for them, but I gotta go.
That's why I'm surprised you're picking against them.
I would, but I'll be honest with you, with the tear that St. Louis has been on this year, it is so hard to bet against them.
Yeah.
Last year, I bet against Chicago every time, and I was wrong every time. It's very, very hard to bet against the hot team. And St. Louis, even though they lost 2, they're still dangerous. I mean, albeit they were in charge in the first period today against the Flyers.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, you got a good point. I'm going to go with San Jose on this one. I like San Jose in 7.
All right, I applaud you. Thank you. That's actually very good.
I like San Jose in 7 on this. I'm going to go with your guys.
Yeah,
and,
all right then.
I mean, I love St. Louis and what they've been doing all year.
I was thinking more goaltending, and I think that Niemi, even though he does have a cup ring, look at Miller who doesn't. I think Miller has more desire to get it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, I mean, it's a valid point. I mean, it makes 100% sense too. So I like what St. Jose's doing this year. I mean, it's hard to say St. Louis, you don't like what they're doing either.
Because you know what? We're both right. You know, that's the sad part. We're both right here with either team winning.
Because I mean, obviously they're two of the best. I mean, they're 2 of the top 6 teams in the whole entire team. I mean, they're leading their conferences. So it's easy to see that who's the best when it's out west. I mean, it's pretty simple. So I think it's going to be a great matchup too.
Oh,
I mean,
that would be wonderful. That's going 7.
I was going to say that's why I have 7 all over it, just because that's good goaltending, good defense, and great offense on both of those teams.
Yeah, so one more structural game could you ask for?
That's what I say.
If you're a hockey purist, this is like the godsend,
That's when I say my coin flip analogy. I mean, I was being serious. It's almost coin flippish.
All right, so you got the black and teal of San Jose moving on. You saying 7? I'm saying St. Louis in 7.
Right.
Because we move now to our next matchup. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let us pause this. That was my Western Conference Finals. Let's get to yours, because you had Anaheim beating
Right.
San Jose. So, St. Louis versus Anaheim. I'm going Anaheim.
Yeah, that's another tough one.
Actually, I'm wrong. Why did I say Anaheim? Screw that. I'm still going St. Louis.
I'm going to stay with St. Louis. I mean, I like St. Louis. I guess I'm I'm piggybacking on your shoulders on this one.
I'm only saying Anaheim because I think, truthfully, Anaheim still has a bad defense. Let's be completely honest here. When the Flyers faced them, the Flyers had a lot of chances, even though they lost because Anaheim's the better offensive team, clearly.
Right.
But, man, some of the stuff they got on them was shocking. You know, if it wasn't for Hiller, I don't even think the Flyers would have had trouble scoring, you know?
Good point.
So I think that comes back to really bite them in the ass against St. Louis.
Yeah, especially such a potent offense. I mean, such a potent offense. I'm staying with. I'd like to ride the gut on these ones, especially with the gap between now and the playoffs starting. I just always go on my guts on what I see now and what I think is going to kind of continue here. So I'm rolling with San Jose on that. I think that's another drag out series too.
You mean Anaheim?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Anaheim.
Wow, going all California here. Sure.
Cali.
Yeah, sure.
I wouldn't mind being out there right now with all the weather that's
I don't think
been
anybody would mind being out there, quite frankly.
I hear this damn snow's coming in again. I'm going crazy.
Oh, God. Yeah, I know. Not great stuff. But nonetheless, you have them winning in what number?
6.
6? All right. I'm actually going to agree with you and say 6, but in reverse. St. Louis wins in 6.
Okay. All right.
So,
I mean, that's valid. I mean, it'd be hard to argue with either one of those.
Yeah, we got a very interesting setup here. All right, so the Western Conference, a couple different outlooks, but let's take a look at the Eastern Conference because we're pretty much in agreement here. Boston versus Philly. Now, let's be honest. The Flyers have had a great run, but it's about time we, hang the skates up and salute because I don't see them beating Boston.
Yeah.
I really don't. Even the goaltending matchup, you got to go with Rask.
It's almost hard for me to even say it, but, I mean, in our last segment, we've even touched that, Boston's always been that thorn.
Yeah, and you got to be honest with yourself. And a good sports fan and a true, honest-to-God sports fan knows when his team is just overmatched.
100%.
And Boston is that team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I unfortunately, I have to agree because I believe the same thing. In my opinion, I think the Flyers are definitely going to give them a little run for their money.
Probably.
I'd say Boston in 6, but
yeah, I would say 6 too. I would defy 7. No,
right? No, I don't think it's getting that far. But I like Boston in 6 on that one. I don't even like saying it, but I think they're just going to overmatch them at that point in time, especially. That deep into the playoffs at this point in time, I just think the defensive team's going to be a little stronger.
Yeah, and the one thing that the Flyers have still got to put puzzle pieces together on is their damn defense.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that they need more than anything else is their solid defense, and they don't have it right now.
No.
Meanwhile, Boston has it.
And it ain't going anywhere.
It ain't going anywhere anytime soon. So yeah, Boston is definitely moving forward. And, we're both in agreement on 6. So no matter what, we've got the Eastern Conference pretty much the same. Boston is going to be facing whom? Well, here's our first little analogy. San Jose versus Boston. Let's throw this one out here. Now, my favorite team in the West against Boston. This is tough because this is another one where no matter what team you pick, you're right. It really is the case. Mm-hmm. Now, this might come down to goaltending. And again, both guys have Stanley Cup rings. Rask has a ring because, well, let's be honest, he ride the coattails of Tim Thomas's Vezina year, and he was on that team. Meanwhile, on the other hand, you got Niemi, who's got a cup ring, and he earned that cup with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yes, he did.
So it's hard to really choose who's better. I will go on a limb and say Rask because I think Rask is tired of being the guy who didn't earn his ring.
Right.
And he didn't really.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right.
I think he wants to.
I mean, you bring up a very valid point. I mean, right down to the points, these teams are almost identically matched up. I mean, from wins, losses, home, away, points, goals against. It's as close as it gets. I'm going to ride with your high on St. Louis, even though I already got them knocked out. I'd like St. Louis versus Boston. That would be a really, really, really interesting matchup too. But since I already have Boston eliminate my Flyers, I'm having St. Louis beat the Boston.
You're having. So wait a minute, are we doing St. Louis versus Boston or San Jose versus Boston?
That's what. Or no.
Because that was the one we were getting to first.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got me when we went with the two different things. I'm getting confused
because,
now.
Yeah, because we had two different structures here.
Right.
But definitely go with. I'll be honest with you. I would love to pick the Sharks, but here's my one gripe and my one problem. This will be most of the Sharks on this team. This will be their first Stanley Cup final, and they're going up against a team that's been to the Cup Finals at least twice.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, Boston
that's
is your
hard.
most. It is. I mean, Boston is your. In my opinion, they're probably your most playoff-ready team.
Oh, in the East, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I would have to say, I would say this goes probably full 7. There's no doubt in my mind it does. But if I have to say this goes to an OT in Game 7, and on a whim, Boston wins it. Man, I really honestly think Boston is going to make up for last year when they kind of shorted out against Chicago.
Right.
I mean, it kills me to say that because I would love to see San Jose win their first cup. It would really be awesome. But against Boston, no, it's not happening.
Right.
Not against Boston. Because it's like when the Washington Capitals faced off with the Red Wings, and the Red Wings are coming off sweeping the Flyers, the LOD, in 97. Like, how in the hell is Washington going to beat Detroit?
Right.
It's impossible. And they got swept. So,
I know where you're going with that one, and everything's pointing that direction. I'm just going against the Cards on this one.
All right. I mean, that's not a bad idea because a lot of people have gone against the Cards and have won. If you're a gambling man,
right.
A lot of times people have won going against the odds, and won a nice piece of change, too.
When it seems too strong one way, that's when I generally lean the other.
I get what you're saying, and a lot of times I would do that myself, but in hockey nowadays, it's very, very hard to do that, because it's always hard to do it in hockey. It's like betting against Detroit at any time in the 90s was almost suicide, especially in the latter 90s. Try betting against Detroit, you're going to lose your money. It's as simple as that.
Good point.
Because there's only one team in the West that could compete with them, and that was Colorado at the time. So, and I really honestly think in this Eastern Conference, Boston's going to be a freaking dynasty with this very weak Eastern Conference that we have.
Right. No, I see where you're coming from on that. I just,
No, I'm fine with you picking San Jose. I've got no problems here.
Boston. Boston's one of those teams I hate to respect, but I do.
I don't like them either, but I respect the shit out of them.
It's even almost hard for me to do it with them, but I do envy the way the way they play hockey. I like the defensive nature and the physical nature of their game.
And their transition game is just beautiful.
Yeah. No, I mean, you got a good point there. They're getting beat, though.
Okay. All right. I'm saying in 7, Boston wins. What do you say?
Oh, it's going 7. It's going all the way.
So you're saying San Jose in 7.
Yeah.
Now, do you view it the same way I do? Overtime, on a whim, San Jose wins their first cup? With somebody's foot in the crease?
That's an interesting.
But only difference is this time it would actually count no matter what. But still,
right. I mean, I see it being. That's why I have it going 7. I see it being knockdown, drag out. OT. I won't go that far. I think it's a close one. I think they beat them 4-3.
Okay. All right. So it goes to regulation, basically.
Yeah, I think it stays in regulation.
All right. You know what? Good series. Either way you look at it, it's a lot of fun. A hockey purist dream. A hockey purist wet dream, actually. But great series right there. Now, let's get to one last one before we wrap things up. The final one, St. Louis versus Boston. Now, this is the other scenario that we had in the Western Conference because we split on the Anaheim-San Jose thing.
San Jose, right.
And St. Louis against Boston. Now, obviously, these are the two best teams of each conference meshing together. Now, when you got this, it's like a demolition derby. Chaos is going to happen.
Sparks fly.
Yeah, and a lot of bad blood forms in one Stanley Cup series. This would be the first time St. Louis and Boston would face each other, too, might I add. Same thing with San Jose and Boston.
Yeah, that throws an interesting little dynamic to it, too.
Oh, no, actually, this isn't the first time that St. Louis and Boston face. No, actually, this would be the first time Boston and St. Louis face off after Boston beat them in the Stanley Cup final.
Oh, wow.
With Bobby Orr.
Oh, interesting.
So there's a big interesting
Well, I was going to say, you just
there.
threw a whole other little spin on that one.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's, what are your thoughts on it? You tell me. Where are you going on this one?
I'm going St. Louis. I got to stick with them. And I'm going to say St. Louis really finally pulls it out and wins it because here's a team that, unlike the Sharks, and I hate to throw curses in here, but man, do the Sharks choke. They find a way to lose. And it's not because they want to, they just find a way to lose, you know?
Right.
It's a shame.
Sounds like the Flyers in the early part of this season.
And you see why I identify with the Sharks so well.
Right.
And it's a sad thing to see because I think the Sharks would do it against Boston. I don't see St. Louis doing it. Ken Hitchcock's system is designed to win cups. Mm-hmm. Ken Hitchcock has won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
so
you got to give the guy respect. I mean, he was solid here even when he was, with the orange and black. So I see why you're going St. Louis, and I like it. I like St. Louis on that matchup. I think ultimately what's really going to, they are very, very, very even teams, but I like St. Louis in a drag out one. I like them. I actually like them in 6. I like St. Louis in 6 for some reason. That's what's jumping out at me.
I'm debating 6, and that's what jumped out at me too. But the funny part is that it almost begs that this has to go to 7. But you know what? I'm just going to stay 6 personally because I think that with teams like St. Louis, they want to wrap things up as soon as possible. They don't want to drag this out any longer than it has to be. Boston would, if I do stand correct, if St. Louis wins the President's Trophy or Boston wins the President's Trophy, that team has home ice advantage.
Right.
So, and that's the funny thing when you get 2 first seeds, and I think, would that be the first time? Because I think Pittsburgh was first seed last year. Boston was second seed.
Okay, yeah, I believe you're right, yes.
So I think that'd be the first time that both first seeds wound up battling each other for the cup.
It'd be hell of a Stanley Cup.
It would be. And that would be a finals that's so much speculation. That would be so overanalyzed. It's like the Super Bowl Stanley Cup finals. Right
almost.
It pretty much is.
Because especially if them two face off each other, they're so evenly matched. It's not even funny,
and
to be honest
even
with
the
you.
goaltending is hard to pick because you got Miller, a veteran who wants a ring, against Rask, who has a ring, didn't earn it, but he's young, he's fresh, and he's such a damn good goaltender.
I agree with you. 100% on that one. He's a solid. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I like what your point earlier stating that he didn't really win that cup himself. So I can see where you're coming from. He might have that extra little vigor behind him, knowing that
he has a ring that he didn't earn.
Yeah, it was kind of handed off to him. But anybody, I think if you're on any team, if you're on first line or fifth line,
anybody will accept it.
You'll take that. You'll take that ring and put it.
Stupid. He's gonna want it. Yeah.
Get out there and hold that cup up for a little bit. So that's all these kids want to do their whole entire lives. So yeah, no.
Yeah, but think about it. If he might win. Just imagine him winning the Conn Smythe and the Stanley Cup. That's like him becoming the epicenter, becoming the what's the word for it? Becoming the ultimate of what he's wanted. His goal has been reached. He's earned it.
Right.
He can actually sit there and say, "This ring I didn't get by myself. This one I did."
And it's even more gratifying to look at 2 rings.
Yeah.
And
then one.
Right. And you make a good point there. Because you'd have that almost that ring to be able to be like, you know what, if for some reason I had any second thoughts on if I deserved that ring or not that season, this proves it. You know what I mean? So, I see where you're coming from on that one.
Yeah. But nonetheless, I'm still sticking with St. Louis only because I still think Miller and the St. Louis Blues have got so much. Plus, if you're looking at what if happens if one breaks down, who's got backup? Well, Boston, I don't know. Their backup hasn't proven himself.
Mm-hmm.
But who they have as backup for, St. Louis,
Right.
they have Elliott.
Right.
And Elliott's a very good goaltender. So
you got a good point there.
Yeah, and I think that, again, more depth. Actually, no, not really, not more depth. More offensive scoring potential, I think, does find its way to St. Louis necessarily than Boston.
Right.
Boston has plenty of it. But I think St. Louis gets it by about this much. By a very small hair, they have more offense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what leads to them winning the Cup. Because Boston, I think, will be a little bit more defensive against a team that's just like them.
You got a good point there. I honestly think St. Louis can open it up a little more on offense too.
And that's what I think will really come down to at the end of the game. I mean, special teams too. I mean, both teams have got phenomenal power plays and they've got pretty good penalty kills. But at the end of the day, I think the team that has the more offense, who lights the lamp more, which really goes down to St. Louis, usually probably wins special teams,
especially versus a highly defensive team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again,
that's when that's going to be tested.
Yeah, so that's when the ultimate test happens, especially 5-on-3s, 5-on-4s. It always happens that way. So I have St. Louis winning this. I like I said, I was gonna say 7, but I'm thinking I'm gonna go with you, and I'm gonna piggyback off of you this time and say 6.
6 it is.
And I think St. Louis wins it in Boston. And really gives
flips
a little bird over at Boston if it is to be, because I do have St. Louis winning the President's Trophy, so I'm just going to go on that precipice. Mm-hmm. They win in Boston. Oh man!
Yeah.
Could you imagine the Bruins fans? They're gonna rip shit.
Oh, I was going to say, dude, there's going to be fires. There's going to be riots.
Think about it. That would be 2 times Boston has seen the cup paraded by the enemy on their ice, and they won the cup 3 years ago on enemy ice. They won it in Vancouver. So how does that must play with your psyche a little bit? Like, man, if only we didn't have home ice advantage, we would actually win the damn thing.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
I mean, valid point. I mean, that's an interesting scenario there.
Yeah, I think that's funny when I looked at those parallels, because I remember looking back, I was like, oh my God, Chicago won it in Boston. Like, Boston can't win it at home.
Oh man,
and that explains why the Flyers were able to do what they did when they had that miracle comeback, because they finished it in Boston.
One of the best, probably still the best series I've ever seen when it comes down to it.
It's one of my most cherished memories as a Flyers fan is watching Michael Layton hit the post, jump up and give a big bear hug to the first guy who gave right there with, forget who it was, but it was great.
Then to watch 2 years later when the goal goes in and you didn't even know it went in. So opposite ends of the spectrum on that emotional roller coaster right there. But
oh God. But then again, that's what you're going to get with Michael Layton. So you're not going to get consistency.
You got it.
But anyway, so I have them winning 6. You have them winning in 6.
You got it.
So that's how we look at it. You have either the Sharks winning if it comes down to them in Boston. I have Boston winning if that happens.
Correct.
And I stick with St. Louis if they get into the Stanley Cup Finals, and you're with me on St. Louis.
100%.
So that will do it for the Hockey Happy Hour. Wow, we've gone through a nice long topic. We stretched out 2 segments, man. That's awesome.
It was good, man. I mean, like I said, this time of year we're getting down towards the playoffs. It's all hockey here. So
it is.
Nothing better than that.
Yeah. So what do you think about the Hockey Hour? Are you having fun?
Having a great time, man.
You had a great time?
I'm glad you had me on board. It was good to come in and sit down and talk hockey. I mean, we do this off air generally a lot of times.
Yeah,
so
true.
Really, all we did was sit in front of the mics for this one
and shoot the shit. Yep, that's always how it goes. All right. Well, like I said, that'll do it for the Hockey Happy Hour. It's time for last call, and we will see you guys next week. Rob the Povia will be back in the studio, but not to undercut anything, Henry Wahalik stepping in and really delivering the goods here this week.
Try my best, my friend.
Man, thank you for being on here. It was awesome.
I appreciate you having me on, my friend.
Yeah, so thank you for joining us here on the Hockey Happy Hour. I'm Matt Sensuti, and for Henry Wahalik, we will see you hockey maniacs next time. Stay American Canadian and stay true to the hockey pride. Here's a little ditty from Five Finger Death Punch called Watch You Bleed.
I'd give anything just to cut you free.